All right, so pretty soon we'll be getting fundraising numbers for the quarter. Hotly anticipated, and the press likes to look at them as signs of strength and momentum. It's unclear how much that is because we look at them as signs of momentum and how much they are actually signs of momentum. Famously, the Obama campaign was able to marshal small donors in 2008, and it was this sort of stunning ability to do that that kind of put it on the map. One of the questions is whether the grassroots energy is still there. Are people still as eager to send money as they were the last time around? Joining us now is Joe Rospars. He is the chief digital strategist for the Obama campaign, founder of Blue State Digital. He's here with Maggie Haberman of the Politico, Rinku Sen of Applied Research Center, and Raihan Salam of thedaily.com. Joe, thank you so much for coming.
Happy to be here.
It's great to see you.
Yeah, thanks.
So, Joe, let's talk about 2008 first, right? I had this here somewhere in my notes that in 2007, I think in the third quarter, you guys announced something like $32.5 million. And this was back when Hillary Clinton was clearly inevitable in everyone's imagination. You guys were polling at 8 or 10% in Iowa. And I remember that report really kind of galvanizing people and making people sit up and take notice. What was it that you were able to tap into in 2008 that made that possible?
I think people are hungry to participate in the political process and have it feel like it's responsible to them and responsive to them. And so we ran a grassroots campaign from the bottom up in 2008, and that happened in Iowa and happened in other states, but it also happened nationally and online. And so people viewed the digital program, whether they're donating $5 or making some calls to voters from home, as an opportunity to really play a role in the political process that can oftentimes feel disconnected from it.
I think there's a debate a little bit about how much the medium, the digital medium, was just another tool in the toolkit, and how much it actually enabled some new kind of campaigning, right? So where do you come down on that?
I think it's totally a tool in the toolkit. I think ultimately the digital program in any organization, whether it's a political campaign or nonprofit, is about fundamentally, the knocks on the door and the conversations between volunteers. The web and a digital strategy just makes that a lot easier and makes it able to happen at scale.
But is there something sort of... I remember when the Dean baseball bat happened, right, in 2004. For those of you who don't remember this, there was this baseball bat. It's classic, right? And there was this baseball bat on Howard Dean's webpage. And it was like a thermometer, right? So like part of it would be red, and then every donation it would get redder and redder. And I remember talking to someone who said I couldn't help myself. It was like a video game. I would just sit there and donate and click refresh. And I do think there is something about the immediacy that you get from a click that is distinct from knocking on the door or making a phone call. Don't you think there's it sort of lowers the threshold of entry?
Yeah, it's definitely lowers the barrier to entry, but I think the click that happens online so often is not just to make a donation, but also to sign up or find an event near you. And so we have people sort of feeling the sense of community offline, and they're getting there through the web. So the click is really just the start of the relationship, but overall it's a civic relationship for people.
I want to talk to you a little bit about the most recent fundraising quarter. And you're looking at me askance, but this will be a fun conversation. You guys, I promise. So you guys, the filing deadline was September 30th, and so what happens in all campaigns is that the deadline, those quarterly numbers matter, as we said, and so donors tend to wait until the last minute, and so there's a flurry of emails down the line. And there were some emails coming from the campaign that got some subject lines that got a lot of attention. The first subject line was, "If I don't call you." Do we have that one? Yes. If I don't call you. The president talking about this Friday's deadline is important. The next one was from the president's wife, Michelle Obama, First Lady of the United States, saying, "Take him up on it." And the sort of casual nature of these subject lines, which I think kind of embedded themselves in people's consciousness, which I think was part of the reason that they were successful. It spawned a Twitter hashtag joke, which is the Obama email campaign subject line. So one of them was, this is one of them, "It's Michelle, why does my husband have your email address?" Obama campaign email subject lines. And then I feel like subject lines for the last week of Obama campaign emails have been vaguely menacing. "Yes or no, Erica." And then you guys, and I give great credit to you guys, because you then integrated this into your own Twitter feed. The president's official Twitter feed said, if you want to get the real Obama email subject lines hashtag, you should come to our Twitter account. So what did you make of the sort of viral nature of people's reaction to the subject lines?
I think it's fun, and it's another opportunity for the campaign to interact with people. And I should correct something you said earlier. I am not the guy who hits send. There's a heroic group of staff and volunteers who are pressing the send button, but also more importantly, watching what comes back and interacting with donors and volunteers as they go. So when people hit reply or people are posting on Facebook or Twitter, there's a group of staff and volunteers who are there already around the clock, making sure that that's a real two-way relationship with people.
I know you are reticent to talk about how the sausage gets made or the magic is made, but there is a lot of
more like sausage.
Yeah, well, I mean, sausage that can turn into electing the first black president of the United States and raising $32 million in a quarter. So there's a lot of thought that goes into these email subject lines, right?
Well, there's, I think at the end of the day, we're just trying to have a little fun with it. It's obviously one of the many ways that we talk to and communicate with donors and volunteers, and everything is sort of everything's a challenge, especially it's still early days in the election, and so I think all the campaigns and all the organizations are just trying to break through a little bit and get people's attention. The inbox is a crowded place, and Twitter's a crowded place, and Facebook's a crowded place, and so the campaign tries to have a little bit of fun, but also make sure that everybody understands what the stakes are. And there was a line in one of the messages from the vice president about, like, if you think you're going to donate to the campaign, well, why not do it now? And that's the message that I think the campaign's trying to send to people, that it is time to build the organization that's gonna turn out the vote next year. And so that's happening on the ground in all the battleground states. That's happening at the headquarters of Chicago. But it's time. It's time to get started.
You guys should feel free to jump in. I want to ask you one more question about how different is it writing these emails and crafting this strategy with the incumbent president of the United States than it was from a one-term senator who people had sort of written off. It seems like in the former case, you got a lot more latitude, right? I mean, if you try a risk or something doesn't work or it is a little glib or something, you don't have quite the scrutiny that you have when it is literally the president of the United States' name is on that email.
Look, I think for any organization, every organization has a relationship with its volunteers and its donors that it has to take seriously, and I think that there's no excuse for being glib no matter where you work. If you work at Autism Speaks or the American Cancer Society or the Obama campaign, that's your opportunity to have a real conversation with people, to offer them a low barrier to entry to get involved, and to have a relationship with either the principals who are sending emails or the local volunteers that they'll connect with in their local organization. So I think there has to be a high standard, and it needs to be fun and it needs to be interactive. But there's no excuse for being glib.
And people are talking about them. I'm sorry, I don't mean to interrupt.
No,
I mean, people certainly are talking about them. They did break through. I mean, and if that is the entire goal, I think my favorite one was the Michelle Obama, just relax if you get chosen for this dinner. And that was the one that was the most eyebrow-raising for a couple of readers of mine who got it. But I do think that is the goal here. And also, I think the sense of urgency, that's the thing that a lot of Democrats have talked about with me, especially on the small donor front, is re-establishing this sense of this is serious, you have to get involved, and the hour is actually running late. The campaign insists this is working and that they are seeing a huge amount. I mean, I know the New York Times reported that they were really struggling on small donors, and Ben Smith and I reported several months ago that there was this big question about whether they could recreate the sausage/magic as you guys were describing it. But there was. But the campaign insists that it's not true that they're struggling. That 98% of their last quarter was small donors, and they've launched some other initiative to try to get them. I think it's 1 million small donors, I believe was the number. Am I right about that?
Yeah, sometime in October.
Within the next couple of weeks. It wouldn't have been by the end of this quarter, but it will be before February, which was when it was last time. So, I mean, that's going to be the big question mark. But he is struggling, as I think we all reported, in both areas. He's been struggling certainly with the high dollar raisers. The small donors remain the open question. We'll have a much better sense when the filing comes out.
You raised something that I'm very curious about to Joe. I mean, I think that Chris's earlier question suggested to me that he was asking about the analytics, that you guys are actually, you have a ton of data, right. You have a large database, and actually when this kind of question is actually framed, one wonders, I mean, surely there's part of it that's serendipitous or whatever, but there's also part of it, I assume, that, you guys are testing and seeing kind of what people actually respond to. I mean, can you let us, give us a bit of insight into that process?
Yeah, well, like every organization that relies on small donor fundraising, there's a lot of testing that goes on in terms of what people, want to hear from the campaign and what they respond to. And so, it's interesting. I mean, journalists especially tend to get the most outlier, risky spaghetti at the wall things because they're not donors and they're not volunteers. So
right.
You're like just relax, right?
Yeah, right. Exactly. And just relax. I mean, that's also practical advice. I mean,
for free, courtesy of the campaign.
In any setting, it doesn't have to apply to this. That's right.
I mean, we're on the, the staff are on the phones with the people who actually get to go have lunch or dinner with the president, and they have the conversations with him. And it turns out, people are really nervous. They don't know what to order. They have to order the same thing as him. And so, that's born from real stories.
And an email from his wife saying that definitely calms you down. I'm sorry. it broke through. It stood out.
Seems to me like there are actually a couple of interesting things here. One is if the emails that are more informal are doing well, it seems like that speaks to people wanting to be part of the community, the Obama community, and wanting to be close to the president, thinking of him as a friend, as a member of their own community. But the other thing is that what I hear is that an Obama re-election is not a given, and that there is, in fact, a lot of nervousness about whether that's really going to happen or not. I think when Osama bin Laden got killed, there was a couple of days where people thought, hey, he's got this. This is a shoo-in now. He's got that wrapped up. But as the economy continues not to improve and things are really hard for people, I think there's a good deal of nervousness among Democrats about making sure that he gets reelected. And I'm wondering if the tone of the emails will need to balance out the informality and the community building with the urgency.
Well, I mean, nothing's a given in politics. I mean, he wouldn't be there if things were given. And this time 4 years ago, it was a given that President Giuliani would be.
That's true.
So but the thing is that everybody should understand, and people watching the show and people getting emails, everybody should understand nothing's a given this early in the process. And so the dollars that people donate, the time people volunteer, the things going on in what's going on in Ohio around getting the voting rights stuff on the ballot for next year, those are all things that have consequence, and people have agency over those things. And so people need to understand that they can actually impact that stuff.
Joe Rosbars, Blue State Digital, a tech advisor, chief digital strategist for the Obama campaign. It's a great pleasure to have you here. I thank you so much.
Thanks very much. Cheers.
We'll be back talking about Barack Obama, Wall Street donors, and Occupy Wall Street after this break.